Instead, what she did, it became about her. If she doesn't know how to deal with trauma, she doesn't know how to deal with different people's lived experience, don't do the work, don't have that client. Unfair.
Just life is so hard. It just gets like that sometimes. And
hide your cats.
Deep breaths, guys. Deep breaths. Deep breaths, because we're back with another banger. Let's go. Welcome to Talking Trophies. It's your boy Rayvo. You sit there. We're going to do a quick talk and we're going to come back to you because we have an unbelievable episode happening today. Last week, we spoke on a topic on mental health. And I feel like we just aerated and went too far. And you know what? Because we're a man of the people, we don't like to beat around the bush. We don't like to do any of this fake stuff. We're going to have a therapist on this episode. But before that,
we're going to have our minds open.
Let's talk, Damo.
But, how have you been, Cuzzy? How you been doing, bro?
Good week, man. Good week.
We saw Wiebo.
We saw Wiebo. Yeah, we went to the Ego Expo. Wiebo had an unbelievable performance.
Insane.
And then the Ego Expo shut down. So, RIP to the Ego Expo. I like the event. I like the concept.
You had to walk a kilometer to get to the venue.
No, that might have been a situation, but it's just, you know what it is. And I heard her speech, Mel's speech, and she's not wrong, man. It's like you give to this city. She puts on I enjoyed going there.
Yeah. The event's mad.
We actually enjoyed the event. So you're giving a good event, and just this, there's sometimes the city just doesn't turn up.
Hey. And we let out steam. We let out anger. So there was that break room, whatever it is, where you the smash room.
Yeah.
Should I put the video in?
Yeah. We'll put the video.
We'll play the video of what I did. I just got home from work. What do you mean? You're gonna see it right now.
Look, we're gonna talk about therapy, but this was therapy breaking things.
We smashed things, smashed glass.
Smashing glass.
Was it relieving?
Look, Damo wrote something. I'm not going to say what he wrote on the bottle. He wrote something on the bottle and piffed the bottle on the ground, but he felt good after he did it. So whatever was on that bottle, he was holding that in for a while. But make sure you guys do hit the subscribe button, share this video around. And guys, the polls have come in. Ladies, we're calling you the Deevs. So our women are called the Deevs?
Yes. So shout out to the Deevs.
The Deevs.
You've been leveling it up. You have been responding.
Yeah.
You have been more vocal.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. So we gave you a name.
They love that. They love that. So the Deevs. And someone messaged in for the boys and he said, why don't you just call the boys the Davies? The Deevs and the Davies. And I said, look, it's an all right response. It's just what you guys think now.
Sean, what are your thoughts?
What do you think?
I like the Davies, bro.
The Davies, it's just piss take, you know what I mean?
Weaver, what's your thoughts? It doesn't matter what you think.
I'm just gonna leave. I'm not coming back.
No, yeah. What do you think, bro?
Nah, cause isn't the Davies is like it's a weird thing to call you.
A Davy?
Yeah, if you call someone a Davy,
you're a
cause
nuffie, yeah. But the thing is, cause our viewers are nuffies. Bro, let's not sit here. Our viewers are low-key doctors, accountants, engineers.
10 out of 10.
That are watching. No, because therapists. Because they're watching our show. And you know what it is? You're coming after a long week of work or a long day of work, whatever. You come, you just watch an episode. You don't want to go sit down and watch a documentary. Bro, I'm sick of this aerating stuff where people want to be like, let's watch some motivational, intellectual speeches. Brother, I just finished a long day of looking at reports and data. I want to sit down and watch the Wiggles.
And hear a whole bunch of misinformed information from a couple of blokes.
That's it. That's all it is. So, shout out our viewers. We love you guys. We love the Deevs. We love the Davies.
It's warming up on me. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. I'm telling you, it's gonna get there. Eventually, people are gonna be walking in the street. You're gonna see a mad 10 out of 10 girl walking in the street. She's just gonna be eyeing you out. You're gonna be like, bro, is this girl trying to chat me up or what? And then she's gonna come up to you. She's gonna say, "What's up? I'm a Deev." And you're gonna be like, "Oh,
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Good thing Sean's behind the cameras, because you know if she saw you, you're getting the IG." But let's introduce the guest because she's been waiting for a while.
She's itching.
She's itching to talk. You know what? Look, I'll tell you something about this lady. And I've only met her for about a day. A couple of hours I've only seen her in person. But, mate, you know when they talk about extroverted women? Mate, she'll push in boundaries before it. She's calling me bold. She's insulting me and stuff like that. And you know what?
Do you
I
realise
love it.
facts was an insult.
No, that's not
Was it
insult. That's not
facts or
insult.
insults?
And she's already going. We haven't even introduced her. She's already going. But you know what? I actually rate her.
Yeah.
And I, you know what I love? I love the confidence when you're able to talk, have a laugh with the boys, have a laugh with people. You know what I mean? And one thing I love is we didn't beat around the bush, did a little high, cuddly stuff and all of that. It was straight. What's going on? You guys got issues, you need therapy, and we're in the therapy. We're in the head office. We're in Pola Practice with Tigist. What's going on, Tigist?
Thank you. I'm part of their apology tour about the comments that you guys made last episode. Heard some of the things that you guys said, and this is part of the PR response.
Yeah.
The next
Amazing.
episode.
We're bouncing back, guys. We stopped.
HR got us.
They were like, "What should we do?" They were, let's get a therapist.
Yeah,
Let's get a black woman.
Hey, let's
And
get a black woman.
I'm
You
here
said-
for you guys.
Look, we got a black woman. If we were in a white organization, we would have probably just sent a bloody put a banner post, whatever. But instead, we're for the people. We brought a black female.
Queen.
A black
Okay,
female,
queen.
am I now? Okay, a black woman. Thank you
Female,
so much.
Queen.
Queen,
You know what?
queen,
Not
queen.
even.
A queen.
You know what? He said queen.
Sure.
That's the light skin side kicking
I
in.
forgot the toxic masculinity podcast. Okay, thank you, my kings and queens.
We support women.
Yeah,
Women.
it's just you don't support Aboriginal people. Is that right?
I do.
I specifically wore a particular outfit, so that's another misinformation. That's
This is an
African
African
print.
film.
It's not.
It's not
African
Aboriginal.
print.
Mate, you're in a bad roll right now.
On a bad roll.
The white side can't tell the
I'm
difference
better-
between black, so
Hey,
I can
oh.
They're all the same.
It's all the
Hey.
same. It's all the same for him, you know. So can definitely. That's why I wore.
Shout out to all my indigenous family from Reservoir.
No one's
You know
shouting
where
you
we're
back.
at.
No.
You know where we're at.
The
Hey,
Nova.
you know what's funny? You got the clothing, the Gaps shirt on. If anyone doesn't know, she's wearing a clothing, the Gaps. It's an indigenous awareness brand supporting the people. Guess what? This guy wears that top as well.
Yes.
So you know what? Hey, let me tell you something. We're all undercovers.
Yeah. Anytime, you know. I'll just leave my comments there. Very interesting commentary that you made.
Yeah, 100%.
In regards to how race doesn't matter, in regards to how when race becomes a particular, to the government level, I don't think that's okay. Meanwhile, we have a podcast about race
100%.
by two racialized boys.
Hey.
And there's a need for your space, but not a space for them, right?
I never.
Yeah.
Hey, wait.
Don't exaggerate.
Let me-
No, wait. Let's
Okay.
say this. Look,
Yeah.
I'm on the Yes campaign. You heard what I said. I said just give.
That's why I wasn't directing it
No,
to you.
I want to say something. But I want to say something. You know what it is too? I'm not going to lie to you. We did put a couple posts out, and there's a bloke called Henry that comments on our videos, and he said it was poor from both sides, the government and the Australian people. We both did bad, and this Liberal government manipulating the Australian people into thinking this is about race.
I think
And
if
know
you talk
what?
about the propaganda around what's happened.
It's not even just the propaganda. I went to school in Reservoir. Reservoir's a highly populated area for Indigenous people. I went to school with bare Indigenous people. I didn't get many posts about pushing for the yes vote from people I knew personally that were Indigenous in that fact.
Did you look for why someone would want to vote yes? Or were you just waiting to have that information come up to you?
Bro, I was waiting for the information. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I think there's a few factors just to address it now. So I think firstly, in terms of the yes campaign, I think there was a lot of misinformation in terms of their own role to inform communities, especially marginalized communities, communities of diversity, communities who don't necessarily have all that information. It was a very quote unquote woke campaign, so it relied on people to know those things. So misinformation was rife, and then the no side was great around showing that information. So like when you look at the statistics now, the statistics show that Aboriginal people through the roof voted yes, right? So it was us as a community which let them down, which is a reflection of what they were saying. We don't want you guys to vote on our behalf. So I think, yes, in terms of misinformation, when I heard you say that, I was like, oh, what you said is a reflection of so many people in our community who are waiting for information to come to them, which didn't come to them, first and foremost. So address that. Secondly, the due diligence of yourself as someone who can vote should have gone out to find that information. Because what ends up happening is then you believe something without information coming to you and without you yourself double checking yourself, which then results in millions of people doing the same thing.
And that's and that was a clear reflection for all Australia. A lot of Australians, 60% of Australians, and that was clear. And guess what? We love watching Damian get put in his place because he was saying, yep, like a grade 5. Like he's getting told off by his grade 5 teacher. And he's
He's like, yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
therapy
you know what?
is also
I'm
being
listening.
checked. You know that, yeah?
No, 100%. That was valid.
I'm also not stubborn. I'm an open. I'm an open person.
And to be honest, I think the whole Australia should have been educated, and I think maybe advertising.
It was
this
pushed too
campaign,
quickly.
It was way too.
The yes camp, it
Yeah,
should have
no.
taken another year.
I think
and
so, yeah.
I think when I think of, I have a lot more space for me personally for people of marginalized backgrounds, because these things take a lot of time for us to understand the whys and the hows and the whats, and if that's not happening to us as a community by the people who should be doing this as their job, and then we also don't have the literacy of how to find those things, not to say that's what happened to you, but just in general, then this is what happens. That's how
100%.
propaganda works, right? And the other side is just like, put a ton of money into misinformation just to say, if you don't know, just vote no.
Yes.
What?
100%. But that's the job of the opposition, and I feel like in Australia and in the West we have I don't like the Western idea of a opposition party, because it's whatever the government's doing, whether it's good or bad, let's go against it. That's what it is, the opposition parties. And even when Labor are in charge, they'll do the same to the Liberals.
100%.
And it's just a weird political system. And talking about propaganda, free Palestine. But let's talk about what we're here for, therapy.
Yes. So before we start,
Yep.
do you mind if I want to do my little
Oh, get the
therapy
cards,
woo-woo?
the cards, yeah,
the
yeah,
cards
yeah.
on you guys, yeah. So I've got cards here. They're Pola cards. So I'll get you to pull one out, and then you pull one out for yourself. You got one.
I got
How about
one.
you boys
I
pull
want
one.
to
Don't worry about them, they're the cameramen. Just give them the cards, but their opinions don't matter.
I'm gonna pull one for myself too.
Okay, so this is, you want me to read it out?
Yeah, read out what yours says.
I feel glorious, dynamic energy. I am active and alive.
All right. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is I feel glorious, dynamic energy, and I'm active and alive.
All right.
Oh, do you want me to like?
No, what do you feel about that?
I just
a
feel like-
random person you've met for 1 hour has given you a card and it says that statement on it.
What do I feel like?
What does that bring out?
It's positive, and you printed about 100 of these cards. So someone could have pulled this out and got this. And I think it is a good way of just getting you to think a little bit.
Okay.
I like the dynamic energy, to be honest. It feels like a fortune.
It feels like you, yeah.
It feels like
Dynamic energy describes the way you talk.
so did you pick this? But
I was
so
gonna
if I
say
pick
it
another
felt
card-
pretty choreographed.
Yeah, it felt pretty.
All right, next person, all right?
The human capacity for burden is like bamboo, far more flexible than you'd ever believe at first glance.
Mate, sounds like a Chinese fortune cookie you got, and you don't know the answer to.
I'm not gonna lie.
You just-
I was reading. I was looking at it the whole time. I'm like, cards. I'm gonna look so dumb right now, bro. That's it.
So let's talk about the cards. Let's talk about why you
Yeah.
handed this out to us.
Yeah. I handed that to you is because, well, Pola Practice, that's who I represent. I'm one of the co-founders. My other co-founder is Nasalithia Namwinga. And we have a practice here based in Ascot Vale, where we have over 13 therapists who do the work, as well as so many other community members. And we had those cards because I think when you think of therapy, you think of a particular thing, right? So that's a conversation starter. It's also something sometimes motivational or reflectional. And I think the reason why we have this space and we do what we wanted to do is because, well, you saw Nasalithia talk today. How she described it was she realized that there was a need for therapy because she wanted it for herself. And she wanted a therapist who was competent, who had knowledge, but also a therapist that was able to understand all the socio-political factors of what her life was, which was being a black woman. And that didn't exist at the time. Yeah. So she created that. I jumped on board a year later. And then we've got this amazing house now where we do therapy that is culturally responsive, which means maybe I acknowledge what you look like and what your religion or faith is, and how that might impact your mental health.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, there was a gap in the market and it's booming now.
Cha-ching!
I'm not gonna lie. I think Sean's gonna call this place home from now on.
Because our cameraman Sean did
Yeah, the
walk in here
voodoo's
and he said,
working.
I love this place. You just can come in here, kick it. I don't know. I just felt like I was vibing here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm not like I walked in and I just like just came up.
Someone's ready to do the cat daddy code.
Yeah. Because
Are you old enough to cat daddy?
we can give you a demonstration after the show. But look, let's talk about therapy, and I'm gonna come with you with the standard. I've done therapy once in my life.
Okay.
Where sat down with a white lady, started talking my smack. Yeah,
How was it?
it was cool, but not something I was looking for. It wasn't for me.
Did you connect with her, or was it just a bit?
I was just talking to her, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know what it is when you're sitting down with her and you're just talking. She was trying to get deep. Like, you know what I mean?
Cuzzy, yeah, therapy or a date?
In a way. I think it was,
The way you're describing
it was
it,
a
bro.
date.
Hey, you gotta understand. Hey,
Does
the
not
neurotherapist is about you, not even about her.
Yeah. Because we're in therapy.
Try to talk to me, bro.
And she's asking me about like DMs and IG and stuff, and I'm like, come on, girl, like chill.
It's
We're
like
here on a
I was in
professional level.
therapy.
I'm a calming guy.
I'm Max Brenner, and I bought her a drink.
He's all doing this when he's talking about it. It's like,
Where'd you find your therapist on Tinder?
So I went there. I went through one of the community organizations.
Yeah.
You know, we have the ones in North Melbourne. Oh, go
Yeah,
see
yeah,
a psychologist, whatever. I went there, I kicked it with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just thought, I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. That's all it was.
I guess, yeah. So what made you stop? So you thought like it wasn't a thing, it wasn't a match?
No, it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel like I need to like go and sit down with someone and have discussions about things.
Fair.
Like generally, and I believe it's good for some people because people need an outlet end of the day. And I think therapy is a great outlet for some people. Yeah. I'm just those blokes that are going to hold everything in and just die from stress at the age of 62.
and then he's gonna hold it in and let it out when he gets married.
Oh, no, relax, chill. That was...
I didn't laugh at your joke. Related to family violence? No, I didn't find it funny.
We condemn the DV.
He's loving his smile with it.
Yeah,
Deevs.
He likes being the one that's not in trouble, yeah?
Hey.
He's like, yeah.
For
Get the
3
light
years-
skin one. Get him.
For 3 years, we've been doing this podcast, and I've been in trouble for a lot, cats. And you know what it is?
Don't worry, we have time for you.
No, but I wanted. Let's go back to this. Let's get it back on track. Therapy. I just thought it wasn't for me, and then like I heard this speech. I'm like, oh, this is funny as Western therapy doesn't work on Eastern minds. And I thought about the therapy session I had, and I'm like, this lady ain't gonna understand me. She won't understand half the struggles we've been through in our life. And the thing is, too, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've gone through obviously a lot of traumatic things in my life, but I never thought, let me sit down and talk to someone about this. You know what I mean? I'm just like, it's just part of life. I've always acknowledged things that's a part of life, and that's why I was like, therapy for me isn't the best thing. I wouldn't do therapy.
I don't think everyone needs therapy.
Yeah.
But I think that therapy is a particular type of way to manage and deal with things. Some people just have podcasts, right? Yeah. And that's just the way they manage it, and they look in the mirror and they talk to themselves. Yeah. Whereas some people have that with someone else. And I think the reason someone goes to therapy is always different to the reason why someone stays. And I think what you were talking about is like, yeah, I tried it out, which kudos to you. A black man trying therapy at a time, given your age, where maybe it wasn't the most TikTok friendly thing right now.
No, I did this when I was like 18.
Right?
I did this ages ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas the mental health literacy, even the mental health popularity, wasn't where it's at now. It was like it was more taboo then than it was now.
Yeah, this was like 8 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So kudos to you for trying it out and giving it a go. And I think what my experiences has been in this space is that people try it out because why not? And then the reason why they don't continue is maybe they don't need it, but most oftenly it's because they're not connecting with their therapist. And I did a Tinder joke with you to say that therapy for a lot of people is you have to find the right person that matches your vibes, that matches and understands you. And if you have to educate your therapist about your background, who you are, why, because those interventions won't make sense. That quote that you said, an intervention doesn't make sense if you're not thinking about it from that person's perspective, how they grew up. If you're trying to be like, someone said this racist thing to me and I got angry, and you're trying to do anger management with me instead of saying to me, hey, that thing was inappropriate. It's actually quite normal to be angry when someone's racist towards you. That's a different approach. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people, especially people of color, people of marginalized backgrounds, don't stay with white therapists, because the intervention that you're using is not applicable. Instead of telling me that my anger is something to manage and to control, how about you normalize my anger and be like, racism is awful, and like I should feel anger. So that's two different things that you could go through, right?
Yeah.
I've got a question. Do you reckon the host here, his form of therapy is cracking jokes? Like non-stop back to back.
Yes, I think so, but not necessarily for therapy. I think it's an outlet, and I think I'm the same in the sense that I use comedy as a relief for difficult situations, and I think a lot of people in our community make jokes and make light of things because what am I going to do? It's either I laugh or I cry. So I'm not crying, so we're going to laugh about it, and that's the way that we pass it on. The problem is that when I'm a hold everything with my chest, so one day things are too heavy for you. But therapy is not the only outlet. People have spirituality, people have sports, people have so many different, and you should have those things.
Yeah. I think sports is my therapy. Sports is one of my therapies because there's a time in the game where my body's just tired and something comes in my head and I know I low-key got an anger issue because I'm like, sometimes in the game I'm just like, yo, let me just chop this guy's legs and get the ball off him and I'm going to feel good about myself.
You guys bro, do you remember the soccer? When we went and played soccer? I didn't play it. Oh, do you remember when we went and played? How dirty was this?
So you need that. You need that.
As a man, you need to be competitive.
You need that.
You need to be competitive in life.
It's not love. There's no love in that moment, guys. Get the job done.
For me, generally, this playing competitive sports is the equivalent of
why is the competition so important to you?
Competitive. I like the idea of winning, but more than winning, I'd rather lose, but everyone gives 100%. I like the idea of everyone around me giving 100% when we're playing a sport. So I'll go
Is that how you deal with problems? You give it your 100% and then...
What do you mean? Look, this is not a therapy session. No,
I'm asking a question. Like, is that how you do it? Pin drop silence. Everyone's like, I'm not going to say anything in case she looks at me.
Stressing out.
Is that how you deal with problems? You give it your all. You're like, hey, this is an issue. I need to tackle it. I'm going to give it my 100%.
I generally would give 100% in things. But when it comes to team things, I believe that everyone should try their best. That's what it is. So when I'm playing sports and I'm competitive amongst my team, I'm like, I know you can do better. You know what I mean? So some might see it as a negative, and some people struggle to take criticism. I don't like sit there and go, you suck, whatever. I'll go to them and be like, hey, listen, come on, you gotta defend
That's
better.
not what you do, cuz. Yeah, come on, man, cuz. What are you doing, bro? Why aren't you running like that, cuz?
I feel like you're acting for the camera because I was here. I was here when you were trying to
camera.
I was here when you're trying to set things up. I saw how you. I saw that your communication style when you're setting things up.
It depends who it is. If it's,
do you want to stand up and tell me?
It's giving intervention here.
Guys, did you guys get this conversation going before?
You just sit down, mate, and we're gonna discuss your actions.
First and foremost,
because
take a deep breath in, ground yourself.
I do breath work, by the way, in the mornings. Every morning I do breath work. But as you were saying, it depends who you are. I won't. If I was playing with you, I won't go like all for.
Why is that? Because she's a female?
No, not
First
no.
off,
Because
a woman.
I don't know
female and male.
Not even female male. It's not even female male because I don't have that. Like these are my first cousins.
Yeah.
I have that
So
comfortability.
your familiarity with them makes you feel like that you can cuss them out more.
Not cuss them out more, hold them up to a higher standard.
Oh, okay.
So
whereas
like-
you have me in a very low standard. I got you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know you.
Yeah. See the hole? You just keep digging it. But anyway, keep going.
But like that's my way of thinking, and I think being competitive in sport is my therapy in a way.
Yeah.
Because I feel good after it. Like once I sit down, I'll be like, oh, done. We're done. You know, like the game finishes, and then back to normal. Have a laugh.
I love it when I hear that someone has things, right? So when I'm in a therapy session with people, therapy is 50 minutes, maybe a week, maybe a fortnight, maybe a month of your whole life. Like that's not enough time. And also you can't just be reliant on a therapist, right? So you have to have other things. You have to have a community. You have to be able to have family, friends, all this other stuff to hold you, because as people, we're communal people. And we need to be able to exist in that way. Even if you're an introvert, you should be able to have other things around you, right? So, but the only issue I have sometimes is I hear this a lot from guys, especially in my community, is like, I don't need therapy, I need it. So who checks you? When you have a particular thought, when you think of things, who do you bounce that back off from you if everyone around you has the same thoughts as you?
Your dad, he gives you a backhand, tells you get back to doing whatever, and then you go back.
Cool story. So who checks you?
I think that's where having a good friendship group comes in place.
Okay. So in your friendship group, is there enough diverse opinions that's not just going to reaffirm you? That's just going to be like, yeah, me too, bro. Yeah, me too. Yeah, 100%. Not problematic at all. I agree. Because me and you, we both can't be problematic.
Let's just have a toughie.
Yeah.
Let's smash down a joint, smoke a bit of ice, and we're good.
Yeah. So what happens when you exist in communities that have normalized things? So in our community, for example, in my community growing up, sexual assault is normalized. It's just every girl I knew experienced sexual assault. So who do we go to that checks that and challenges that I'm going to be okay with talking to?
Yeah, 100%. And like how you said there is issues in our cultures, of course, 100%.
Yeah.
So like, that's what I'm saying. Like having a good friendship group, having diverse opinions. Like I'm privileged to have like a variety of friends where they have different perspectives. And I'll chill with and I think let's just say this conservative Africans are a bit more conservative, yeah. And then I'll chill with the whiteys. That's what we call white people here, the whitey whites.
You should also call the Davies and what was the other one?
The guys are Davies and the girls are
The
Deevs.
Deevs and the double Ds for the whole crew. That's what my thoughts are.
Double Ds?
Yeah, that's what you're
What's that for?
Double Ds is
I don't think that's an appropriate statement.
Why wouldn't that be appropriate? Ds and Ds? Are you making it sexual?
It is a sexual thing. It's
Isn't
known
it
as
two
that.
Ds?
I knew that when I was 12. So let's go back to this.
He's like, I feel uncomfortable now.
I feel uncomfortable talking about sexuality.
Is that sexuality?
The sex therapy room is in the next.
Yeah, the next sex. We'll go to the sex therapy room later. But what were we saying? I just lost my train of thought. But having a diverse,
He's like thinking of double Ds now.
having a diverse group of friends.
Yeah.
So like when I hang out, I realized and this was happening as I was growing up. I realized how conservative like my African friends were.
Sure, yeah.
in
Same
comparison
views, same opinions.
to like my whitey friends, you know what I mean? Because my whitey friends, but then I'll look at me like, oh, these guys are a bit. Some of them were a bit.
When you say conservative, you mean traditional?
Traditional, that's conservative. You're conserving the culture.
Is it? Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm looking at them like, oh, okay, this is cool for you guys, and this is not cool for you guys, you know? And I feel like I fall somewhere in the middle where I'm like, oh, I get this, but I disagree with this, you know what I mean? So it's like, do you think like if you have to have a diverse group of friends, or you just got to go see a therapist if all your friends are conservative?
No, I think the reason why people go see a therapist, from my experience, is that they want to unpack something that they've had difficulty unpacking with.
There's a why behind it. You don't just rock
There's
up to a
a
therapist
why,
and go,
yeah.
I'm just here for the sake of it.
But the reason you stay is also different as well, right? And I think even despite how many diverse friends that you might have, despite all those things, there might be a reason to unpack something, because therapy often unpacks the way you think and believe and feel about something. So if you've experienced a particular thing within your family, within yourself, within your workplace, then therapy would be a place to unpack that. And then a good therapist would be able to then figure out the roots of why that is in all the different modalities, because clearly you loved the toys room and then you liked the sex therapy room.
Just clarifying, toys as in like play toys.
Yeah.
Like kids' toys.
How many types of toys?
Yeah, you know what we're talking
Comes
about.
Rayvo, we don't.
The thing is, look, you know what you do? You pretty much lay up our murder. That's what you do. You're the sister of killing.
I call out the things that you're thinking of to show the others that it's wrong. And that's what we do in therapy. We're like, okay, tell me your thinking around that, and let's see if we can challenge it.
And you know what's crazy? And then they wonder why no black man goes to therapy.
Oh, well, that's maybe the reason why you don't go to therapy.
No.
The black men are in therapy, and they're also therapists themselves.
I was gonna get to that. That's what I was gonna get to. Do you feel like people are more comfortable coming to like a female therapist and feel like they can be more vulnerable in comparison to like a male therapist? Like, in a way, like there's like you feel like you can not release, wrong word, but like feel like you can open up a bit more with a female.
Well, what would you feel more comfortable with? Would you feel more comfortable with a woman, or would you feel more comfortable with a man? Talking about things, or does it depend?
No.
We can go to Damo because Damo over there hasn't got airtime. He also needs to be in the
I'm chilling. I'm itching right now.
I personally would be comfortable talking to both.
Okay.
I think so, because I think even like it's a profession. At the end of the day, like they're gonna be as objective as they can be. There is obviously gonna be a bit of biasness, but like I believe that genuinely, like I would be comfortable with both.
Yep.
For me, it depends on the person. So it doesn't depend on the it doesn't depend on the gender or whatever. I don't have to look at it. It's on the person. So like I have like multiple people in my life that speak into my life, but they're all for different things. So my therapist for like my childhood trauma, she's a female, but we just get along really well, and I trust her with that. And she's also a spiritual mentor as well.
Yeah.
Then I have a mentor in my life just for my day to day, my week to week, how I'm feeling, how am I checking in. that he's literally like a father figure in my life. So that guy, he just speaks into my life, but I look up to him like my own dad. Like I look up to him so highly. So it just depends on the person.
Do you reckon there's people in your life in general that you can consider like some sort of therapist? Like
100%. The reason I became a therapist is because I was doing unpaid labor within my family. What are you on about? There's therapeutic roles that people can have. But I think an actual therapist is completely different. And it's different to a mentor as well. So I think the question I was asking, like, would you see a particular gender therapist? Don't think I'd see a male therapist, just because of my comfortability that I'd have around it, whether it's culturally, whether it's the content I would want to talk about. I have noticed in this space that men most often would align themselves with a male therapist because they might feel like there's less explaining to do. There's a proximity, and there's that can be like, okay, what might feel like to experience masculinity or a particular thing. But I find that some of the best work can happen when there is a diversity in gender as well. So I think that sometimes there's a vulnerability, because I think men in our communities are not allowed to have feelings. They're not allowed to be able to speak about these things. So for a lot of women attending therapy, there's a lingo that they've been used to talking about how they are, who they are, what's going on, that is reprimanded in our communities for men. So even coming in there and being like, okay, tell me how you feel. Like, what do you mean? I've been taught to suppress.
What's feelings? Suppress the trade.
And then that creates this idea that men don't have feelings. They do. And they have beliefs and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a familiarity of being able to do something that doesn't happen for men in our communities because we don't teach them how to do that.
Do you think a man who is not able, who hasn't processed his emotions or is able to express his emotion could be dangerous? Could be a dangerous thing?
Yes. Same with if a woman hadn't either. I think anyone who doesn't understand how to process what is going on for them will end up being able to have really poor relationships. Whether that's a man or a woman. And I think that's what we tend to see. Like we tend to see those dynamics in a friendship, in a relationship with our parents, in our communities, where people don't necessarily have the most healthiest ways of communicating for themselves, and which results in people experiencing traumatic events.
I reckon I'd be comfortable speaking to a black therapist, a black female therapist. I think I find comfortability with black women in general. Shout out black Deevs. But you know what it is? I think because
you ruined it. I was like, yes. You know what this is? Growth. You know what this is? Power. You know what this is? Embarrassment. He just ruined it. Oh my god.
Hit me up on Instagram. But the reason why is the reason why is I think because I've always had that comfortability to speak with my mother. So I can find that in other black women. I reckon I find that easier. Like I can chill with my mum after a long day and explain everything to her, and she'll listen to me. So I think if I had a therapist, I reckon it'd be a black female therapist.
You know what? There's an actual term for that. There's a psychological term
Sigmund
called
Freud.
No, that's a person.
He's
A for effort.
No. He's got a study.
Yeah,
he's got the study of like how like the boy loves his mom more than
100%. It's called transference. So what you're talking about is how in a therapeutic position, and this happens. What you said as well in terms of the mentor, it happens everywhere. Transference is when a person projects a particular feeling or belief onto another person that has nothing to do with them. So you being like, oh, I think I could talk to black women a lot more comfortably because I've had those experiences with black women, whether it's in my family or my friends, so I can connect more with them, which has nothing to do with the person in front of them, right? And for you, maybe your lack of having that male figure in your life, you have a mentor now who's a man, you're projecting on your feelings of that father figure onto that person, which can be used great because it means that you feel a sense of comfortability, but it can also create conflict because if you've got poor relationship with women and you come with a female like a woman therapist, then who cops it?
She does. So it's like if Andrew Tate had a female therapist right now and she's sitting down listening to him, Andrew Tate would
how much money would it take me to give therapy to Andrew Tate? Not enough money in the world.
Just sit down with him, $10 million right
now. I think there'll be ethical dilemmas.
You're lying. You would do it for 10 mil.
I think there'll be ethical.
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie.
For your little Pola Practice.
First and foremost,
but you're taking up 10. You're taking the money for it.
Absolutely. I'll take the $10 million all the time. I'm going to take the million. I'm sitting there. I walk out like that's the easiest 10 mil I ever made. However, for a normal rate, it's gonna cost. There's gonna be a surcharge.
Surcharge,
From-
yeah.
and that surcharge happens to be 10 mil. What a surprise!
No, surcharge for inconvenience. Let's
For the
talk
trauma.
You know what? Let's talk about trauma.
That's what I am. I'm a trauma therapist.
So that's what you were hiding from us the whole time.
Well, firstly, you didn't ever ask.
We did ask. You
'Cause
said the same
rude.
for the podcast.
Yeah, and you never asked.
Okay.
I had to disclose.
No, I was gonna
See, hospitality?
I want to get to that, the trauma bit. Why is trauma subjective?
Okay. Why is trauma subjective?
Yes.
Because it's a person's experience of an event.
Because like I find
Can
this
I just define what trauma is first?
yeah,
Do you
can
know what the
that.
definition is?
Traumatic state. So something a shock, something that brings shock to someone.
You're so close. Yeah. Keep going. You're actually nearly on it.
Is this sarcasm or are you being serious?
Absolutely being serious.
Okay, so I think trauma is like a shock or an experience that brings shock to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trauma is the process post that thing. So it's them pretty much going through either like the trauma.
We have a therapist in the building, guys. We have a therapist in the building.
A black male therapist.
No, yeah, so tell
Now working at Pola Practice to,
I
come
just
see
sent
us.
you my resume. So
You're so close. So it's basically when we describe trauma in the loosest terms, would be talking about an emotional experience that someone has of a threat. So it can be perceived or real that creates them to feel like hopelessness, overwhelmed, inability to cope. Right? So it has to be like a perceived threat. So something that you may be thinking, oh my God, I almost died. It could be real, it could be not. And that's the emotional experience of it. It doesn't actually matter what the event is, hence why it's subjective.
And can it be just one event or could it be an ongoing sequence?
So then
of things?
that's when we start describe different types of trauma, right? So there's an acute, complex. So acute would be a single presentation. Complex would be like kind of multiple presentations of traumatic events. So that's kind of, in a nutshell of what, and how trauma can look like. It can be different. It can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be migration, it can be war.
psychological abuse.
Yeah, it can be like an emotional trauma. So there's so many different ways which trauma can occur. But it is subjective because two people can experience a particular event.
That's what I wanna
And
ask,
one
yeah.
person it can be traumatic, another person it won't be. So often we find this in families, in friendship groups and all that kind of stuff where a group of people go through something and one person will be like, this is the worst traumatic event. And the other sibling's like, I forgot. I don't even remember that happened.
100%, yeah.
Whereas sometimes all of them felt
So how does that happen? How does that happen where it's like one sibling takes it so hard, or not even one sibling, let's just say a group of friends, something happened to a group of friends, because this happened many times, like in my life, where something happened to a group of my friends, or I was with like one or two individuals, and they're talking about it like 2 months later still, like, cuz bro, that was a cook night.
Because there's
that
probably
was
a
a good
perceived
day.
threat, right? So there's a real or perceived threat that they experienced that caused them to feel overwhelmed. So when you are overwhelmed by something, when it stops you from being able to cope with a situation, that's what trauma is. And for some people, they're like, oh, actually, it was distressing, but it wasn't traumatic, right? Like it was, my ability to cope wasn't impacted. So we often find that, I think, like most in like racism instances. So some people can find a particular racial event quite traumatic, where someone else, maybe being called the N-word for one person is the most traumatic thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And for another person, they're like, bro, I got knocked out the other day. Call me the N-word. I don't care, right? So
I got kidnapped by the KKK.
right. So like what a traumatic event is for different people can look different.
Yeah.
And as I think part of doing this work, it's understanding why they felt what was the fear in that? What did you think was going to happen to you? And why did it overwhelm you? And then figuring that out from there. So maybe being called the N-word was traumatic for someone because I know when people say the N-word, then that's when violence happens right afterwards, right? Or so I thought my life was in danger because of that. Compared to someone else being, compared to someone else being like, so I often use family violence example, whereas for some people, someone in a relationship punching a wall for them is quite traumatic. I've never seen a guy punch a wall. That to me was violence, and it is. Where someone else can be like, oh no, I'd rather him punch a wall than punch me because that's what happens, right?
Get a punching bag, mate.
Exactly. So, but the point for that is that some people can have traumatic experiences to a point where they've experienced so much that some of that lower threshold for them isn't traumatic, even though it is. even though someone punching a wall, regardless of who you are, is
That
pretty
shows
bad.
aggression, and that
Exactly.
that
But
shows
if you've
aggression.
had a high level of aggression, so if you talk about the flats often and experiencing like racial trauma, police trauma, and all that kind of stuff in that space, like if you experience so much all the time, then you kind of get numb to it and you kind of normalize the thing happening, which is an issue because you've normalized abuse happening towards you. You've normalized your dehumanization. You've normalized being discriminated. So for you, it's like, oh, when they bash me, it's awful. Not when they call me the N-word.
But like, okay, let's use the N word as an example. I've been called nigger, negro, nigga, plenty of times in my life. Yeah,
Niglet, yeah.
niglet.
By me, clearly today.
But like, I don't think it's the biggest thing for me. But like, I think like I will like call you out for it on the spot. Yep. You know what I mean? Like if someone does say the N word to me,
Yeah.
I'll call him out. But mate, if the boy's playing a bit of Kanye West and the N word comes out and he slips out of him, I'm not gonna be like,
Bro, what the
come on, man. You know what
So
I mean?
can
Like,
I
bro,
ask you guys, how do you guys deal with threat? A threat happens. Okay, I'll give you the perfect example right
discussion,
now.
roast back.
Someone right now bursts through this door. Hey, yo, what are you guys doing? How are you responding?
Guys will die.
Right.
like in a threatening, like as in like, you know, it's a pretty threatening
No,
situation.
wait. So he runs in and just goes, "Hey boys, what are you doing?"
No, like
She's saying someone breaks in and so
someone breaks in right now. Get on the floor.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Okay,
so
get
what-
on the floor is I'll probably.
Do you
You're the closest to the door right now, so I'll probably have to piff this camera at them, and then I'm gonna send Pola
So
Practice.
I'm dead, guys. Just a heads
I
up.
said, no,
Yeah.
you're the closest to the door, so I'm probably gonna have to piff your camera at them just to distract them for a good millisecond
And that will buy you enough time to strike a conversation.
and talk about
Then
them. Yeah.
he will open up.
All right, so
He will open up.
So fight.
Hey, why did you break
Fawn,
in? Why did you do that
Fight,
for?
fawn.
No, defense.
Fight, fawn. All right, what would you guys do?
Are you being serious?
I'm being legit right now.
Okay,
someone,
in a serious
someone.
situation, I'd get up,
I'd
I'd
take him out.
not take him out. I'd
No, he's speaking for himself, bro.
No, I'm being serious.
no, I thought we're doing this as a team.
No. We're all doing.
Sorry,
our responses.
this is not a
Our-
competition, all right?
yeah.
Calm down. There's no winner.
Yeah.
Mate, there's a guy that just ran into the house. We're trying to get him dead.
Is he physically trying to do harm?
I gave you what he came down.
He came in and said, "Everybody
with
get on the
mad
floor."
aggression. Everyone get on the
Yeah,
floor
okay.
right now. What are you doing?
And then he said,
I feel cringy saying this, but obviously you can try to knock him out.
All right.
Yeah, you're gonna give aggression back then.
All right. So let's say now there's too many of them. So there's more than one. It's now 10.
Go as hard as you can.
"Well,
And see what happens.
Sean's
Look,
wearing
look,
Sean's wearing leggings, so he's gonna start running."
Flight. Okay. What else is there?
No,
Mate, you're gonna bloody break dance for him, mate.
yeah, Damian's a dancer. Damian's gonna start dancing.
He's gonna be like
Homie.
touch.
No, in that situation, 100% would probably try doing whatever we can to defend ourselves. But when the numbers get thing,
Cause if there's 20 of them,
Push
bro,
it.
I'm hitting
No one's gonna get down on the floor
what?
because they told us to get on the floor.
If I can exit out that door, I'll rather.
Okay. So flight, fight, fawn. Anyone with freeze?
What's fun?
These are all survival responses to threat.
I
So
think-
when someone experiences a traumatic event, they can go through different survival responses. So one of the ones that you said was to push back. Hey, yo, what the hell? And then you fight back, right? So that's a pushback response. The other one someone said was flight, which is, look, we might be, run, bolt, get out of here. I said fawn, which you were asking what that was. And that definition is to appease or please a threat. So following instructions, doing what they say, trying to make it so that, you know,
We got cakes, guys. Here, take some.
you never done that before? In a situation you're like, I am not going to say anything. I'm going to go with it. Even though I'm mad angry.
No.
Liar. Okay.
What do you
Anyone
mean?
else?
No, I've seen people just be like,
Your parents have never done anything to
Oh,
you
no, 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 no.
disrespectful.
I'm talking about
And you...
scenes. Oh, no, because I'm talking about in fight scenes. And
there's things where you
I've
just
been-
allow it. You just allow it. You just
Yeah,
like, you
you're
see
like-
it.
of course.
That's what a fawn
But I've been
response
pulled
is.
Like I've been pulled, like someone coming to actually harm me.
Yes.
to-
So
an
your
attempt to
instinctive response
multiple
wouldn't be to
times
fawn. Yep. It wouldn't be for
It wouldn't
yeah.
be fawn, no.
No. But
Because
you
I know
have
if I
fawned
do
in
that,
other places.
of course, to my parents, brother, fawn.
Whatever you are, whatever you
Whatever, yeah.
So that's 4 that we've said right now. Fight, flight, freeze. Oh, so we didn't say freeze. So freeze is pretty clear, like you neither act or not act.
Yeah, that's a sad one for me.
And then, okay, you're calling it sad, all right?
No, not sad as in that. Like it hurts me when I hear stories about people when they froze, and I'm like, Bro, that's
Like a fighting situation and someone
No,
just
not even. To be honest, I'm gonna say it, and I don't want it to like come as an offensive thing.
It's no problem.
So,
We'll
like,
take it offensively.
So, but like for example, I've heard stories of like women. They told me,
Yep.
like they got sexually assaulted or something like that,
Yeah.
and they froze, and I'm like, fuck. Like it hurt me because like obviously they couldn't do anything, and it hurt me.
That is the response.
And I'm like, it hurt me hearing that, like for example, the aggressor, like did that still, you know, despite knowing that happened. And I felt so bad for the person.
Yeah.
And
because the threat must have been so overwhelming
that's what I think.
that it overwhelmed you so much that
you just
but it is
freeze.
a response. It's a very protective response, right? So all these responses, a fifth one that we haven't said, but all these responses help people, animals, any living creature to survive.
I was just about to
right?
say that, man. My cat did that.
Yeah?
I was about to say one time I got a bunch of cats and then
A couple lost the Rayvo back in the day.
I was gonna make the joke, but
no,
I didn't want
to. My cat, he was hurting my other cat,
Yeah.
and I came up to him to back him off.
Yeah.
And he went to the corner, and I tripped out. I've never seen he just stuck.
He froze.
Because he surrendered. I tripped out. He
Yeah.
didn't tell you, he surrendered.
Yeah.
So it sounds like either a fawn or a freeze response. The
Yeah.
last one is called fake death. Have you guys heard of that?
faking your death. Yeah, 100%. It happens a lot in wars.
Yeah.
So like you like for example, is it like when someone chucks their like body and they just hide under a bunch of bodies that are dead and pretend they're dead as well?
I would
I
say
think
I would
it's
say
a
that's more of
figure
a
of speech
freeze
curse.
response.
Oh, okay.
That's still a freeze response. Yeah. Are you
No.
gonna say something?
I'm saying it's just a figure of speech. It's
Fake
not
death
actually
is just like-
faking
because,
death.
like,
No,
Yeah.
no, you know what I mean? Like fake death. Like you know when
No,
it
no,
was.
no.
Don't overcomplicate it.
You're absolutely absolutely right. There is a response in mass shootings, for example, where people pretend to they've passed away, but
that's
that
not what
is-
it means, yeah?
No,
Yeah,
no. That's not what it means. A fake death response is actually when your body shuts down because you're so overwhelmed by what's happening and you mentally detach yourself. So we see that happen so much in extreme levels of trauma. So whether or not the actual event was extreme or not, it's the person's perception. So when you talked about the sister who went through that situation, it's not uncommon for people, given the level of threat, and this is what I always say, and this is what a lot of trauma therapists say, is that fight and flight response, you have to have so much options and safety to do that, right? To be able to pull up and fight against something, you have to be able to fight. You have to be able to believe that you might have an outcome in that fight. Flight, you have to be able to leave. Like if you think of relationships where people can't leave, like yes, we talk about war and all that, but this can happen in work, where people can't leave because they're like, I've got to stay here. I can't literally fight them because they're gonna fire me. I can't leave, and people freeze. That bystander effect. You ever seen when something happens in the middle of somewhere and no one does anything? And why is that? Why would freezing help you in a traumatic event? How is that helpful? Do you guys know?
For the bystander or for the person?
For the person freezing, why is freezing helpful?
Because I'm just gonna chuck a
Yeah,
wild
chuck it,
guess.
chuck it.
It's if the person doesn't see you reacting, they're gonna be like, oh, okay,
It's
this
the
is
safest option. Like you're going,
They're-
like I'm safe doing this.
They're not gonna.
I'm neither engaging nor disengaging, and as a result, the threat. So if you think of the animal kingdom, the lion won't see me. The lion won't attack me. So if I just stay here, it won't increase nor will it decrease. But at least I'll be here. The fawn response is by far the most common in long-term traumatic events. So we talked about the family, right? Where the family yell at you, you're like, all right, I'm walking on eggshells. I'm washing dishes before my mum yells at me. And we think of relationships where you, even though internally you're like, I hate this person.
I don't agree with this. I don't do
Not even I don't agree with it. I know you're going to hurt me. But because I'm a child and I can't leave this house, I'm going to just go with it and do the thing. So maybe if you're okay, if you actually are okay with this, maybe your hurt that you have for me would decrease. And the flop response is, I have nothing more that I can do. The only way I can escape this is if I mentally leave. And that's all the different types of kind of survival responses that we see. And we see it in our community all the time, the way we deal with issues and events. And that you said two people could go through the same event and have different responses. Someone it's sticking on, and even you're like, yo, why didn't you stand up for me? And it's like, oh, sorry, bro, I didn't know how to respond. And in those moments, in a survival response, you're not thinking, it's instinctive. Some people instinctively get up and some people instinctively just stay where they are.
Can you change your instinct? Let's just say if you're naturally a freezer or you're naturally a flight person, can you change the instinct to become, let's just say, a fight person?
I think our bodies do what it needs to be done to survive the moment. The issue that happens for a lot of people, and this is why people go to therapy, is that when it's not a traumatic event, we get stuck in those in those responses. So do you guys remember the fawn, right? When people try to appease and please, over time, if you've experienced so much trauma in your life, you can become a people pleaser because of that. That can become part of your personality, where you focus on the other person, and even when you're not in a traumatic event, and when you're a fight, if you're so used to fighting against things, then all of a sudden now, for no reason, you're arguing. And for no reason you're hostile, right? Even has nothing to do with what the situation is. No, there's no threat in the situation, but you're stuck in a trauma response because it's unresolved.
And you get like super defensive and stuff.
You can see all of them. The ghoster, the person that's like, anytime you press them on anything, they ghost. Anytime there's whatever, like they don't respond, they kind of leave. They always exit. They're a bit detached. The freezer is the person who just always stays there, doesn't do anything. Is mute. And you're kind of like, all the time, bro. Like what? Like
yeah, and I think that's something that frustrates a lot of people.
100%.
And I've grown up where boys be like, yo, I'm not homeboys with this guy anymore because he didn't jump into a fight with me.
Yeah.
He's like, he didn't help me, and they're like, they genuinely don't talk to each other anymore.
Yeah.
Genuine, because in that situation, the guy just like stood there and did nothing.
Yeah.
While this guy was fighting off however many people.
Yeah.
And he said, yo, this is not my homeboy anymore. And you think that guy in that situation had that freeze experience. He just was in shock, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not like he didn't know what to do."
I don't.
I want to do something,
and
but I
because
can't.
it's so instinctive, your body is doing it. You have to actually fight your instinctive response to get out of it, which is quite hard for a lot of people. Like unless you have to tell your body not to be afraid when you're in a fearful situation. So instead of trying to take someone not to be a survivor, I would say he did what he did because that's how he survived that situation, and the mate fought because that's how he had to survive that situation.
Yeah.
However, if that same mate, fair enough if they fought about whatever, or if whatever they did, in like his relationship does a freeze all the time, even though there's no threat, that's the problem. The problem isn't in the moment of threat. The problem is when it's not threatening and you're still engaging in a survival response when there's no threat. And that's what we see in relationships. Hey, do you want to, a guy and girl trying to, hey, do you want to be serious? You want to take, and the guy freezes or he flies away and goes to.
Because those responses hurt people and yourself.
Exactly. And it means that there's something there that you're finding threatening about a person asking you, hey, do you want to continue this relationship when there's no threat? So that's when I say you need therapy is not when your survival response is happening in times of threat. It's when your survival response is happening when there is no threat. That's when you're locked in this trauma response.
That's true.
Someone's reevaluating their life.
I'm just trying to.
It's been a pretty good therapy session today.
This has
I
been
take
a
FPOS
great
and I
therapy
take cash.
session. And look, we'll send
Hey, I
out.
want to read the thing. We didn't read our cards too, bro.
Now you're the cameraman. You guys have.
Go,
the-
man.
He's dirty, cuz. Sean, let him read his one. Let him read his one. He wants to read it.
No.
He's gonna cry. You'll cry tonight. if he
I'll read
doesn't.
mine and then leave his next to
No,
it.
Weebos
This is a safe
you gonna express
space.
yourself?
No, just let him read it. Just let him read it.
Okay, read your
I want to
card.
hear what their
I'll read
cards
my
are.
one. I deserve pleasure and joy.
You and Weebos switch cards here.
No, read it.
Read it. Give him the mic.
My one says, I'm allowed to set boundaries and say no when needed.
Mate, you've been saying no for the last 6 weeks. You haven't been here, brother.
Do you guys want to sit down and talk about some of the issues you might be having?
Nah. But
The lack of pleasure in your life?
let's talk about even like the situation you were thinking. Let's do a couple of therapy sessions. Because
By the way, this is not therapy, just a heads up, guys.
we know this. Come on, it's banter. Come on.
Wow. I'm going to just quickly explain to you what banter is.
Come on.
You know who might not know? I don't know. Maybe your viewers. Hence the reason why I did that.
Sorry, Deevs and Davies. But
To all the double D's out there. Yeah.
let's go because something closer to home. Let's talk about obviously growing up in public housing.
Yep. We'll go
Okay.
for it.
And I realized this, like, maybe I'll give this 2-3 years. We living in the public housing towers, we went through a lot of trauma as kids and stuff. Through our lives, from witnessing drugs to overdoses to
Police violence.
police violence, suicide, what else? Violence and all of that. Let's just sprinkle it all on top.
Just trauma.
So I used to hear people complain about their lives, and I'd be like, bro, what is this guy complaining about? You know, I'm like, they haven't gone through much in their life. Like, it's nothing. How do we deal with like all these kids that grew up in this environment? How do you think dealing with all the stuff we went through in our lives? Because a lot of us think, like, it's not even that deep. It's just normal life. But a lot of people, and I can see it in them now as we get older, that impacted who they are as a person. And you can see their flaws the older they get. And the day, adults are just big babies. We're just a bunch of kids in adult bodies. So how would you do it? Let's just say, even as a collective community, how do you deal with that?
Well, first off, just because you've gone through trauma doesn't mean that there isn't healing that's happened in there. I think you guys have already talked about what it means to live in the houses, what it means to have community, what it means to be friends with your neighbors, to be able to, because I think what we have in the towers and what we have often in these kind of settings is that you have community. You can see what's happening in Palestine, that despite that there's joy, there's post-traumatic healing.
You're on the Free Palestine vibe.
No comment.
Yes.
No comment?
Why wouldn't I
yes?
want... Yeah, why wouldn't I want Palestine to be free?
Beautiful. Because scrap this community, scrap this topic. I want to talk about something even better. Because this has been on my mind the whole week. How?
I'm nervous now.
No, it's not even a nervous one. Because scrap that. Because this is actually a genuine topic, and a lot of people are going through, and a lot of people are telling me about this. I go on social media, and I go on stories. I'm aware of the situation in Palestine, and I support Palestine, But when I watch videos every day of children's dead bodies and stuff, I feel like I kind of way, and I feel like it impacts my mental health. Like I feel down a bit,
Disturbed.
and I feel the footage is very disturbing. Let's get this real, because
how often do you see a bomb explode? How often do you see blood on someone? How often do you see outside of this scenario?
It's not much.
It's never. You'd never see something like that, right?
Like, if I see this, I just want to know, as for me as well, if I see this every day, would I become desensitized to obviously seeing the bodies and stuff, but also desensitized to feeling a kind of way for them, feeling that like sadness and anger? Because when I see a dead child body, I get pissed off. Like I actually feel anger in me, and I'm like, yo, this pisses me off in a way. Like, and it's just sad. Like I'm just like, why is the world like this? In a way, like not in a way that this is happening, but mostly I'm looking at the Zinos, and I'm like, you absolute dogs, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting pissed off at Israel, obviously, doing this. So like, how would someone watch those, be able to still see those stuff and still feel that sensitivity and not lose that desensitization towards the cause? Because in a way, because after 4 days, people are just skipping past these stories.
Okay, so I just told you guys how people deal with threat, right? What do you think the skip is?
Flight.
Why? Why are people skipping through things? Because it overwhelms them, because it's too much. The thing that I often say to people is that, is your response a normal response to an abnormal event? Right? Is it normal to see death that much? Is it normal to see destruction that much? To see like people having blood on their face and all that kind of stuff? It's not. So you feeling anger, is that a normal response to that? I would say yes. Is it a normal response for someone to kind of pull away from it and not want to see it anymore?
Also yes.
I would say yes. So when I see these things, I think the desensitization, is a very specific thing that you're referring to, about how people can, I think there is a desensitization because we are seeing things so much, we're normalizing the viewing of it.
Yeah.
But, and unfortunately, we've seen it in other movements as well. We've seen it in BLM. We've seen it in other global movements where we've seen so much death and destruction that sometimes we just kind of be like, okay, it is what it is. But I think these responses that people have are human.
Yep.
You should feel disgusted when you see that. You should feel anger. You should feel that I actually can't watch a video. I've got to shut it down. I've got to skip it because it's too much, because it overwhelms my ability to cope.
Yep.
And people can feel a level of trauma by being exposed to these things. And racial trauma is, something that came out, especially after BLM, where people are like, I can't watch black men die or black people die in this way so much without also experiencing PTSD symptoms. And I think that's what I'm seeing in a lot of communities when we're overexposed to these things. And we've seen it in so many different, not just with Palestine, but so many different spaces, that people have traumatic responses to that, because that is a normal response to an abnormal event.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
No, it does. It's just, it answers my question, and you're right about that. It's a normal response in a way, but it's just like, damn, like, mate, just get the point. Free Palestine, man. But It's true. It's happening in the world right now, and you can see a lot of people are impacted by, like, when you go on your stories and stuff.
You always see it.
You're always seeing it, you know. And I've seen people literally witness people just like skip through it in a way because it's just like, yo, it's too much to handle. You know,
I think it is too much for a lot of people to handle, and I think being able to find a sense of self and a sense of agency throughout this is quite difficult, regardless of quote unquote which side you're on, right? Like, end quote, right? Like, or regardless of where that is, I think experiencing death, destruction, experiencing colonization and being seen as a colonizer, and then having it just, we're watching it live.
Yeah.
I watched a missile blow up a building.
Yeah.
I watched, like, I don't know any other time that this would have happened. And the generation right now that we're in, and the technology that we have right now, we are just watching it. Whereas maybe 50 years ago, you just hear news reports and articles.
You'd hear like
and
3-4 days later.
Yeah.
now I'm on TikTok live and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, and it's the 5th person that died. Like, it's.
And then you switch app,
That's
and then you go to another app, and then it's just coming up again and again.
Oh,
and again.
and then I go to school, and then I go to my work. Like, it's just the most abnormal experience to have. Like, how does someone go from watching a child with blood on their face to then shutting that down
and going back to work. Yeah.
Like, how? And I don't think we've been taught how to do that. And I don't think.
I think it's a new experience. It's a whole new experience.
It is.
Yeah, you know what pisses me off the most about? It's you're sitting there, and I made a post about this on my Instagram story. I'm like, how are like I said this. I said to all my what's called non-ethnic and non-Muslim followers, because a lot of people are thinking this is a Muslim versus even the Palestine thing. Yeah, I'm like, how do you watch this? Skip these IG stories and not be like, yo, this is messed up. You know what I mean? That's what I always wonder. I'm like, how do you just sit down? A lot of people just sit down and be like, okay, cool. But then there's another campaign about something else, and then they'll be like, Ukraine or even Ukraine or whatever it is. They'll be like, how come you don't support us? How come you don't think? Oh, wow, because it's your issue. You know what I mean? And I feel, you can now we're starting to see a lot of like ethnic people of color or even religious groups. They're like, they realize that a lot of people don't care about us. And we have to be like share it. We have to be our voice now. We're the voice for people.
But things happen in Africa too, cause there's so many massacres there, cause no one talks about it.
Isn't Sudan like on day 200 something?
You know what? I'm gonna say something. You know what it is, like, bro. You guys remember, like, bro. I used to single thing that used to happen. You guys used to give it to me. Can you remember, like, anything political, anything going on in the world? My stories would be blasting. I'd be posting everything. But I'll be honest. Cause I'm just tired, bro. Like, it's just like you fight for so much, and bro. But the thing is, you don't even see the fruits of it. Majority of the time, you literally don't. You make bare posts. You put in so much effort. Even me, I wrote up a whole story in my drafts, and I was like, I deleted it. I was like, yo, I'm tired, bro. Like, I don't know what it is. Sometimes it feels like you're putting out so much, and it's just going to where.
I sometimes wonder how our media literacy and our ability to be online is impacted, because I think like what's happening is showing us that our communities are overwhelmed and our communities don't know how to help and and feel disenfranchised, like you said, and that is a trauma. Like that is like, I don't know how to support. Is it through money? Is it through sharing a post? So one thing that I learned is unless it's a specific lived experience that I have, I don't think I need to comment on it personally. Yeah. Right. That's just one little hint of advice. Unless it's my lane, unless you're talking about Ethiopian women, like, I don't know if I should be commenting on this. Yeah. Or maybe if it's something like, the experience of black person in racism or something. If I'm going to share an opinion about something, like if it's about Aboriginal community, I think I'm better off sharing an Aboriginal person's thoughts around it. So that's just one little thing that I've learnt how to, because I think there's a media age where everyone feels like they have a right to speak. When yes, you technically do, but should you? Should we hear your opinion over someone else's? Should it be your voice that is the most important one? Should it be your voice that's amplified around this issue?
But look, I get that, but what about if you are like, not your voice, but let's just say like this, we have a platform, you know what I mean? And we speak on the Palestine. We just say, yo, man, it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Is that an issue? in a way.
No, I
Like, no, I'm not saying. I'm not saying.
I know what you're trying to say.
I know what you're saying, but like, let's just say BLM's going on. We're an all-white podcast. What's going on? It's Damon, Ray. Yeah, mate, that stuff going on in America, what they're doing to the blacks is messed up.
speak from your perspective is what I would say always. If you're a white person, you're a black person, you're a Muslim or not, you speak from the perspective of what you have. As someone who's non-Muslim, I cannot speak on the lived experience of a Muslim person experiencing what's going on in Palestine right now, right? And what the impact of
There
that
is Christians there. You can speak on behalf of the Christians.
No, but
that is definitely what I could speak about. But you get what I'm trying to say? So the white person podcast, I would say like, I would be checking myself inside, yeah? Just have a little insight. Be like, who am I? Even say that out loud. Okay, so I, as a white person, am talking about this thing. So I need to tell my viewers and my supporters and my listeners that I'm speaking on it from the perspective of a white person.
Okay.
And that's why
You're
I'm
like,
sharing
right, mate, I don't know what it's like to live over there or experience any of this,
Yep.
but I think it's cooked. I hate it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
And I think it's cooked because of XYZ. And often the references that you should have should be relevant to that, not referencing other white people.
Yeah. Like
right?
what you posted the other day is a perfect example.
What?
You shared a post and it was about this. I think it was statistics, right?
You know what I say? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. But yeah, I remember the
What
post.
did you say?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
think so. Women lied. I was so ready.
No, I know you were. that inner hatred for men was ready to come out.
You see, that's the problem with the modern day, mate. They're ready to fight before even hearing the full story.
Yeah.
She asked before she went
She
to
did ask.
I have
That's
my
a traumatic response,
I have
right?
Traumatic
100%.
response.
It's a fight response. 100%.
I've
But
got
yeah,
a question.
we finished the thing. So
No,
like,
yeah,
with
I was
the
saying,
stats,
like, no, what you did was a perfect example of what she was just saying.
because I'm not Palestinian. I'm
Because you're not sitting there going as if you know exactly what is going
Yeah.
down personally, what is happening there, but you shared experience. You said numbers that someone from over there's
Sent.
sent a
Yeah.
source.
Isn't that a great way though? Like, I
Yeah,
think
it's
that,
the best way. It's the best way.
That's what I mean. So it's not about not having a voice. It's not about being quiet, or it's not about that your voice. It's about how we utilize our space and who are we centering when I speak.
Yeah.
And whose voice should be uplifted in that, because who's the voice of knowledge here? And you being like, look, hey, I care about this issue, and here is what other people are saying is what I wish everyone did
Yeah. Okay.
around all matters.
All right. Yeah.
And maybe people would vote yes if that happened.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I can't change my vote now, all right? Suck it up.
60% of the country voted no. So you don't blame one bloke over here,
Hey.
but his vote would have counted.
I got one question.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer it on to, but as a therapist, do you think it's okay, or can you tell someone like exactly what you said? Can you tell someone to suck it up with the client, or do you have to always have that emotional like all right, let me hear you out, or even if you fully hear everything out, do you have to pull? Because you're right about expressing emotions, how you feel and stuff, but do you think there's a it gets to a point where all right, this person is really like not seeing the bigger picture of life and just really trying to focus on the
Like they're victimizing themselves.
they're really victimizing themselves. As a therapist, can you tell them like, hey man, calm it down, or is there
It's all about delivery, right? Like how am I saying shut up, you're stupid? Like I'm not saying that, right? And as a therapist, I have a duty of care to make sure that what the information I'm conveying is delivered in a way that will make sense for that person. For some people, it's through banter, and our banter, because we've got a rapport together, it can look a lot different. I would never use what I said to one person to another if we don't have the same kind of background history. But yeah, I've said things in a particular way. I think it's difficult because you have to make sure that the person's feelings are being thought of and that it's not hurtful and harmful. Yeah. But I don't think I'll be a good therapist if I wasn't challenging someone on their thoughts and beliefs, if it made sense. So if they thought of themselves in a particular way that I thought might be harmful, I've said to people like, actually, I'm not going to allow you to say that about yourself because that's disrespectful. Right. I don't believe what you're saying is true.
make it empowering, huh?
Hey, do you ever find it hard to switch off?
As a therapist?
Yeah.
Yes. I had to learn how to not take the shit home with me because it will fuck you up.
It's a lifestyle.
But like,
No, it's not.
Do you think you
Being a therapist isn't a life. Things that therapeutic are, but being a therapist is a cage. Like there's things that you can and cannot do as a therapist, and it has impacted the way I move publicly because of that. If you have ethics, you can't say things. When I say it's a cage, it means that like there's things I can never confirm or deny. It's like it's forever. So like I think there's I have to step out of being a therapist. So when I check you guys and all that band stuff, I wouldn't do that in that space. But this essence of me is still there, but it has to be within the confines of a code of practice.
Yeah.
That's a mad answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was scripted.
Or informed.
So
Fake. It's fake.
Fake news.
not
Fake
really like that.
news.
she's lying to you.
Misinformation.
She's lying. Disinformation. She sold herself to the media.
Put the fact checkers right here.
Yeah, put the fact checks right there. But so okay, with this idea of therapy and all of that, even Sean said this, and I'm gonna chuck Sean under the bus because he did say this. But Sean says, how does someone study a course for 3 years and then gets a piece of paper?
5 years.
5 years, gets a piece of paper, and then starts telling you what you can and can't do in your life. And no one's good for you. And you know what?
That's not what a therapist does.
Hey, can I fix up?
Defend
You don't know
here
what
you
a
go, backpedal.
therapist is.
Can I plead my case?
all you want.
Nah.
Okay.
Can I plead
Because
my
I
This is
case?
not a
remember you saying that, and I'm
democracy.
like,
I'm so sorry.
no, but
You're in my house. And
I'm about to get the boot right now, bro. Hey, what I was saying was.
say with your chest, you know?
I said
Believe it. Say with your
He
chest.
just punched For the
He just-
people
He's
watching
got
and
bruise.
listening,
He's
Sean
got
just
bruise in
punched
his chest.
Sean just punched his chest.
He's got a tear rolling down his eye.
What I was saying was, I think that people who have a level of life experience can definitely come and talk, and all walks of life can help people express their emotion, help them deal with and process how to go about themselves. But let's say I'm somebody, I'm Ashley, who from Turak, and I do this 3-year course psychology, and then I get Mutumbo, who came from war, and he's telling me, and why I'm saying this because I got a friend of mine who got referred to go to a therapist.
Yeah, it's 3 questions in one, but
No,
anyway,
no,
keep
no,
going.
No.
All day, every day, we got time.
He sat down with the therapist, and he told her what happened, and she started crying, and she couldn't believe, and she couldn't handle it.
Because she's a shitty therapist.
That's what I'm trying to say.
If you can't handle
So what I said was
someone
along
is
those
telling
sides.
you, and you're sitting
She
there
needs to go
crying.
to Susan from Turak.
Yeah.
Chat to
So
her.
that's the reason why we
Well,
need therapists who understand the lived experience, so that if I'm sitting here crying on your paid time, then I'm not a good therapist.
Oh, so she can't even show emotion.
Not
That's
she
what
can't-
I meant.
No,
That's what
because
I
it
meant when I
becomes
said
about
that.
consoling her. How is that not another instance of racism for that person? How is that not another incident where he has to care about someone else's feelings for a paid service? It's inappropriate. What she should have done is she should have held like, and she can be like, that's sad, that makes me want to cry, how do you feel about it? Then when he leaves, then she can go cry, speak to her supervisor, because he's paying her for a service. Instead, what she did, it became about her. If she doesn't know how to deal with trauma, she doesn't know how to deal with different people's lived experience, don't do the work, don't have that client. Unfair. It's not fair that he has to suffer because of her sensitivities.
Silly.
And that's why you need a fucking therapist, and they're going to do their work.
Let him know.
Mate,
Yeah.
you got something
So
against
that's when-
somebody therapist
hey,
or what?
hey,
You just sound like you
that's when she said, "Suck it up." That's when she sucked it
I'm
up.
gonna turn around. I'll say to her, I'll be like, "That's not all right.
Yeah.
How are you? How dare you?
The chair moved.
How? Let me just get myself comfortable. Imagine this person, an African man, has come in and has gone through all this stuff. The amount of work that he's had to do to walk into that space, to talk about whatever he's going through and say, I need help. Can you support me? And she cries. So what's his response going to be to that?
Look, I'm not gonna go too hard on her, man. She's human. You know what I would have done? I would have cried, chucked the brother the refund, and tell him, mate, go to one of those
And you're not doing your job. Then you're not doing your job,
You know what I
mate.
would have done? I would have chucked her a refund. I would have chucked him a refund. Told him, mate, here's a card, and I would have told him go to Pola Practice.
Exactly, because it's not fair. It's not fair for our community to go through that.
But that's what I'm saying. Obviously, you guys are around. Can he not refer her? He's like, hey, she's like, sorry, refer him and be like, sorry, I can't help you with this situation, and refer him to you.
That's why you need POC.
Actually, that's inappropriate. What she should have done is, because this is a human being who's gone through trauma, she should know how to deal with intersectionality and culturally responsive practice. You don't have to be black to understand trauma. I'm a sexual assault therapist. I've done that in the past. I don't have to experience rape to be able to therapize someone around rape. Just because she's not black doesn't mean she can't deal with it. It's a cop out to be like, actually, your blackity black problems, you need to go to a black person. No, maybe as a therapist, you should learn about some blackity black problems because there's more of you white people than there are of us. So instead of expecting the outliers to only know the issue, how about general therapists know how to serve marginalized communities who go through trauma? And that's why I advocate for, like, yes, Pola Practice exists, but we shouldn't be the unicorn. We should be the standard where it happens everywhere. Everyone should be able to deal with trauma. Everyone should be able to deal with marginalized people, intersectionality. That's not something that is a fairy or a unicorn experience. So it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out from her.
All right, I'm sold.
So
I'm sold. I'm going.
Today's episode is
going
sponsored by
there.
Pola Practice.
You got me.
You got me. I'm coming next week.
she just plugged the brand, and I'm cutting it out. Look, listen to this.
You'll pay partnership.
No.
You'll be talking to my lawyers.
Look, we got a couple whitey listeners and watchers, and look, they're sitting here thinking, "Man, who's this black lady telling me?"
Wow, you have to turn around and be like, BITCH. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I said black. But that, like, I get it. Like, you have to have a standard, but like in that situation, what if homeboy said, "I went to war. I was a child soldier. I was working for what's his
And
name?
you can be human
Coney.
and have a sad response to that
Coney.
because it is sad.
I worked for
That
Joseph
is-
Coney and all of this."
But what she's saying is, it doesn't matter what
Cuz
experience she's
she's
had.
human, cuz
No.
she can cry, bro. Cuz if I hear a sad story,
But her profession in that moment is to be a therapist.
No,
not about
okay,
just
in-
having a human.
Cuz
human.
that's
You
the thing.
can have
As a
tears.
profession-
I've cried in a session, but I haven't cried to the point where I've had tears and be like, "That's actually sad," and I'm having an emotional.
Think about
response
it,
to
yeah?
that.
Hey,
But
You're making it about
this
her.
is not my friend.
Yeah.
This is not a casual scenario. You're paying me for a service, and if I can't handle it, then I need to know that I can't work with these people, right? And I need to do the work to ensure that I can do it. But it's not fair for a person accessing a service. If your doctor comes to you and it's like, "Oh, hey, mate, I've got an arm problem," he's like,
Not even that. Not
"There's
even that.
something
No,
called,
no,
there's
no, no,
something
no, no,
called
no,
cancer."
no, no.
You'll be like-
Yeah, I got you.
you'll
I
be
got you.
like,
I got you.
"Bro, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, is my thing so
You know what it's
bad?"
like? Imagine a shooting breaks out in the city. It's someone's job, whether they're scared for their own life or not, to come up with a gun to shoot down the gunman.
You know
Whether
what?
they're scared
You know
for
the
their own
same
life, there's someone
argument has been
that
used.
regardless, they have to
Mate,
take
the
one.
same argument has been used
exaggerated.
in Sandy Hook. The same argument has been used for a shooter in America when police are like, "We were too scared." Bro, if you're too scared, then why the hell would you give teachers guns?
Hey, you know what's crazy? I can call him out on that. Like he called me out. You know why?
Yeah, tell him.
I've got a
Tell him.
perfect example. So one time I'm coming out my house and I see everyone gathered up at another building, and then there's police everywhere, cops everywhere, and then this ambulance parked up. I know you know what to say, and they pull out this guy, and he's all covered in blood. He's been stabbed up, all covered in blood. It's old man, and then the cops are downstairs, and the ambulance pull him out, and this guy comes out covered in blood. And he's there, and he's telling the cops, "Come upstairs, this guy trying to stab us." The cops saying, "No, we got to wait for backup." That's exactly the argument. Shouldn't his job be to come upstairs and protect your life?
Okay, I was playing good cop, bad cop for this one, and I wanted to have the conversation. In that situation, that cop was a little rat, skunk, he was a little up. There was 5 of them with guns, and I held the door closed for the guy. The killer was inside the house. I held the door closed. The guys couldn't even come up, brother.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm not gonna in this situation, if I could have, I would have went straight to my house, got a knife, whatever, and would have went inside and thing. But obviously, I know it's gonna be he says in court. You know what I mean? So obviously, I would have done something. But in that situation, I knew, because when it comes to knives and someone just died, obviously I'm gonna have to
Listen, there's a difference between, so for your white viewers here, there's a difference between a white person sitting there and someone telling them about the experience of racism and them crying and being like, "Oh my God, that's so sad." Because that is a systemic response. A systemic response to racism is white people centering themselves in my distress. And it becomes about you. So when this white woman does that, it's not about, "Oh, yes, she can have feelings too." It's about historically, people of color do not get to be the person who gets to be treated. They have to consider always the white person's voice and the white person's views. And in a space where you are providing a service, it's inappropriate, it's unethical, and you shouldn't be doing that work. You should not be centering yourself as a therapist, regardless of your race, especially as a white person, because of the power dynamics. You should be able to, if you're doing this work, be able to center the other person. And that is why we have supervision. That is why we do this additional work outside. Because you don't think I feel fucking shit when I hear a black man talk about his refugee trauma as a refugee? You don't think I feel shit when I hear a woman talk about her sexual assault history and she looks like me? I do, but my job in that moment is not to center me. My job in this moment is to center her and make sure that she's okay, and I can deal with my feelings about it later. Because my feelings are real and they're true and they're okay, and I can have them, but not right now. And they should never be that. And it looks different in maybe in the everyday world where you're friends and all that kind of stuff. But as a therapist, that is why I say we're in a cage. Because that's the way we have to act.
So that's what you're saying in that situation. It's like, hold your teas later. Hold your teas for
Suck
later.
it up.
Suck it up.
Suck it up right now. As a therapist, I should be sucking that up. I'm saying I can do this work. I deal with trauma, and you tell me you're trauma, and I cry. What are the psychological impacts for someone else if they see a therapist cry? Wow.
Damn, my story's cool.
My story's bad.
Yeah.
My story's. What
You
are
know
the
what your homework
psychological
should've
harm
done?
That bad that
you're
not
doing?
even a therapist can handle.
Yeah,
it.
a doctor's crying after they talk to me. Oh
You
my
know what I
god.
should have done? Hey, you know your homeboy flopped it. What was his name? That was the name you gave?
Mutombe.
Ndombe.
That's a
Ndombe.
bit racy.
Ndombe.
Is that what you said?
You said that.
Mutombo.
Oh, Mutombo.
Yeah, so you're
So
the
let's talk
racist.
about Mutombo hypothetically. But Mutombo, if I was in that situation and the therapist started crying, oh my God, I got an amazing idea. Let me write a book. Because then
Make
you'd
money
have
out
a
the
bunch
pain.
of white women.
Why'd you have to change your accent?
Because you'd have a bunch of white women.
Why'd the inner white person come out for you?
Because, hey, look, it's my sales tactic. You got to check on the white
Hey,
boys.
you have to
'Cause
please
they say-
all the audience.
Not all CEOs are black. There's more white CEOs than black CEOs. Let's
You
get
think
it
a
straight.
CEO is listening to this podcast being like, let's sponsor them.
And so far we've had zero.
Statistics of
No,
this.
People have
Numbers are like
people have actually reached out to us.
People will make guys.
No,
lie,
people reach out
women
to us.
lie.
Oh, hey, listen, would you do a shout out for a brand, whatever? Said, brother, if you want to get your brand here, brother, you're going nowhere, brother. People are gonna boycott your brand, brother. Mate, you get more boycotts than Israel. But sorry about the dark humor. But in that situation, I would have said, let me write a book about it, make some money off it.
Yeah, but in that situation, that person came to get support.
Yeah.
And I think that is inappropriate. And that's what happens to us. That's what happens to our kids. They say, hey, teacher, this thing happened to me. Yeah. And what's the response of the teacher? What's the response of the friend? What's the response of the whatever, right? And it happens on a large scale, and it also happens on a smaller scale. You know, your mate who told you, hey, this thing happened to me and I froze. If you sat there and started crying or I'm going to bash the guy, I'm going to kill him who did that to you. It's about you now. It's not about her. So like,
A lot of people do that. Like,
But
I'm
what's
just coming
funny
to realize
people
that.
think and they think they're helping the other person.
no, you're not.
But they're
You're
just
absolutely
fueling
not.
themselves.
So as a therapist, it's an extreme version of that. But in everyday life, we should all be doing that. And I see it in my culture because my culture is the most dramatic version of that. So my culture is like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself if this happens. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go do that. It's not about you, cuz it's actually about me and how I'm going through. And now we've just shifted it to you. So that means that I'm lost in this scenario. Now it becomes about how this person struggled to deal with the news that I told them. So I'm either never going to tell them that thing again. My situation hasn't been dealt with. And I'm sitting with whatever. And now this is another traumatic event that I can add to my book. And it, like, this is not content. This is my life.
Do you feel like, let's just say in that situation when you spoke about how, let's just say, speaking it to someone, whatever, do you feel like you're adding trauma to them?
Sometimes you can. I've gone through racism at work and I've called it out and I've sat there and I've cried in scenarios because it was too much, right? And someone came out to me and they sat there crying and it became about making sure that she was okay because I called her out. I'm sitting there going, I just called this lady out for some racism and everyone's comforting her because she stormed out and left. And like, I'm sitting there going, so what does that mean about me and what's happening to me? If that's the biggest gaslight.
Yeah, the worst
Like-
part about that one, it's that whole thing of like, of course she broke out and just like was all loud about it.
Yeah, and it's like the shift of power is now focused to the other person. My things have not been resolved, and now you are the victim when you were the perpetrator. And how is that not a gaslight of my scenario where you've just created a new reality? And our community does not need more instances of traumatic events. We have enough. Our marginalization is enough.
Yeah. Your friend, your partner,
Yep.
and who I was very impressed by, and
What was her name?
I can't say.
Which I
It's-
respect.
It's too African for me, and it's too long. I couldn't remember it, but I know it's an NAS.
Nasalifia Namwinga.
That's the one.
It
There.
doesn't start with an S, but okay.
No, I said NAS.
Oh yeah, Nasalifia Namwinga.
Yeah, shout out to her. But she had a great speech, and she spoke. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very impressed by her. Then I said, you know what, if you can sit here. But she said she's gonna go to a 60th birthday party.
No, she said, I'm not going to take your invite on the day 2 hours before the
Yeah,
event.
and
So it's
she
too
said,
disrespectful.
She said I'm going to a 60th birthday party, and I said,
I would
anyone-
rather be with 60-year-old people than to
Then
be with
chilling with
your
dead boys.
disrespect.
And I said, anyone going to a 60 birthday shouldn't be on Talking Trophies because our viewers won't be engaged with that. But she
Yeah.
was an amazing
Or
speaker.
you could view it the other way around.
All
where
right,
it's a
listen, let's
60-year-old
stop going back and forth, all right? Come on. Who's the host?
Someone can't
Hey,
take the
they're
heat.
pathetic
Someone can
therapist,
give
man.
the heat, but they
No,
can't
but-
take the heat. Wow.
Because we're on a tight time
dissing one of our
schedule.
own codes.
We're on a time schedule, and this can go forever.
Well, you shouldn't have started late.
But yeah, because I was listening to your friend give a great speech. But I was going to speak on something she spoke about.
Sure.
This idea of microaggressions
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace, and not even the work, in general. So what is it? Why is it so emphasized nowadays? And I've been hearing microaggressions, like microaggression racism and all of that lately, so heavy. And even a microaggression happens with even sexism, all of that stuff she said. Can you elaborate on it, speak on it? And then we'll go into a point of how Talking Trophies is very microaggressive.
100% microaggressive.
Yeah.
So a microaggression, I don't have the exact definition off the top of my head, but my understanding, it is a comment or a behavior that is offensive in terms of someone's identity or belief or cultural practice or something like
Like
that.
calling someone bold when you first meet them.
You could call that a descriptor, or it's a
Yeah.
fact. But it could be something like an example of a microaggression I had was I was in a work meeting, and I'm a therapist, so I present. While presenting and talking about someone said, "Hey, hold up 1 second, Beyonce," and they continued.
No way.
What a great way to say something.
Right, and that was not when
Maybe-
it's your manager. So I got called Beyonce, which you're like, okay.
No,
so
no.
the
'cause
reason
it's
why
in the moment, that's a degrading.
so the reason why it's a microaggression is because it's subtle enough that you can be like, it's a compliment though, which shows your
it can be
Yeah.
flipped. It can be
toxicity.
like.
but it also is degrading because I have a name,
Yeah.
and also what made you call me an entertainer when I'm sitting here the same as you presenting on something? So another microaggression is being like, oh, is that your hair? How what?
Yeah.
What's is that
This girl's chucking Sneek disses, and I'm about to press cut.
what?
No,
Sneak this is to who?
Weebo.
Well,
Weebo.
Hit Dog's gonna holler,
Weebo,
aren't they?
No, Weebo. Weebo was looking at me as a joke. Go. Anyways, so Miss Weaves and Wigs, yeah. So like about that, yeah. So they say that. Like,
So
is
just
with
it could
your
be
hair.
it could be something like I'm gonna make a comment around, oh, you don't sound like you're from Africa,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like and it's a compliment, but it's not. It's degrading. It's dehumanizing. It's making a comment about a particular part of your identity,
Yeah.
which shouldn't be mentioned.
Yeah.
So that's kind of essentially what microaggression is.
Yeah.
Why are we hearing it more now? And you hear these. Pardon me, you hear these comments that people say about, or people are talking about more now, racism didn't exist back then, or sexism didn't exist back then, or mental health didn't exist back then. People are making it up now. That's not true. These experiences happened all the time, but we have language for it now. Someone actually be able to define what that is, and people turn around and be like, oh, okay, code switch. I never knew what that was, but I've been doing it my whole life. I've been code switching all my life.
What do you mean by code switching?
So code switch,
What?
100%.
We're gonna check if this accent.
Yeah,
But you know what's crazy? I actually, you know what's wild? I actually talk like this at work. How I talk right now is how I talk at work.
So
Not that. But you know what I mean? Not that.
A code
yeah,
switch is
man,
when you change your tone or way of speaking or your
It's like
behavior
how we say in the area, talking like a white
for a
boy.
particular thing,
No,
right?
but you could do it in any way. For example, how you
I
talk
could
to the
my
boys and how you
parents.
talk to a girl.
yeah,
Completely different.
yeah. I code switch.
Let's
with my
be
parents.
honest, mate.
No, look.
When you're going for a walk,
Yeah.
You're not speaking the same how you're speaking to us.
Or do you speak to your
100%.
parents in the same way?
Yeah.
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 No.
Shoddy, you know.
Yeah.
You, you want me to code switch?
No,
Yeah.
Don't. All good.
Head out, yeah?
Yeah,
All right.
Peace out.
Ciao. Thank you.
That's all right. I want
Take
to come
care.
back here, but man.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
want to get some therapy.
Yeah. Let's go back to the code switching.
So code switching is like, it's always existed, but we just never had the names for it, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that I was code switching since birth, since growing up, once I heard about the term. So these things have always existed, but now we're becoming a little bit more aware and we have language for it. So we're able to call it for what it is. That's it.
Oh, nice.
So for in terms of a microaggression, it's dehumanizing, it's awful. It's a reason why a lot of people are in therapy, because how do you fight something that's that subtle? What do I say to that person that called me Beyonce?
Yeah.
How do
And
I?
what did she say?
And it's one of
She
those things you think, like, even sometimes you mentally guess, you go, if I speak up about this, am I exaggerating? Am I
overthinking? Yeah.
Am I overthinking this?
And then I'm thinking, like, as a black woman, if I say something now, am I going to be acting
Yeah.
a fool?
You're gonna,
Yeah.
you know what stereotype you're gonna fulfill?
Right,
The black
the
women
angry-
are aggressive. Angry
yeah.
black woman.
Yeah.
And
Angry
you know
black
what?
woman.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I love angry black women. I love sitting back and just watching a black woman go off. Because sometimes
Are
when
you?
no, in general. No, come on. But I was gonna say was with the microaggression. She said something very like, and I was like, oh, that's a great way of saying things. Getting him to repeat it, say, sorry, what do you mean by that? And
Kind of like what I did with you.
huh?
Kind of like what I did with you
Yeah,
guys.
because she goes, sorry, what do you mean by that? And then you'd be like,
It forces them.
because you're not really, if you think about it, a lot of microaggressions aren't like out of a bad
You flip
place.
it.
Yeah. Do you think it comes from a bad place, microaggression? Or is it just like,
I think it comes.
you're not the
it comes
violent
from-
black guy.
It
So-
comes from stigma a lot of the time.
Yeah.
However, I think some people are ignorant to their stigma,
Yeah.
or some people believe that what they're saying is actually not that bad, which is
It's like a lack of care. They go like, oh, it's just
exactly.
a joke.
So I think so. For example, the person that said Beyonce to me, I couldn't respond in that moment because we're in the meeting, right?
Yeah.
And then if I respond afterwards, it's a bit difficult. So being able to pull someone up on something is also about your opportunity and your chance and the privilege that you have in that moment, right? But being able to, when someone made a comment about my hair, I was like, oh, so is that what you're going to wear or how you're going to do your hair for work? Turning around and be like, oh, is there something wrong with it? Well, flip it on them and be like, and they have to explain their thinking as to why they said that particular comment.
Yeah.
Which will show either forcing them to think about their own stigma or bias, or maybe I should shut up. And sometimes everyone can just shut up.
Yeah.
So that teaches people to be like, oh, okay, if I can't actually explain what I'm saying, maybe I should shut up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just always find microaggressions interesting. I never really had in the workplace that issue because I always just call people out for it. Not even call people like, what'd you say? I do this. What'd you say?
Give it back to him.
Bro, what'd you say? And then they'll be like, oh. And it's never like really a thing. And I always wondered like, why? How come people like when they have issues with racism and stuff, they don't call it out? But like, I realize it's not even like timing.
Timing, power imbalance. I think sometimes you can say things, sometimes you can't. Timing is also another issue. Also, like picking your battles. That's another thing that Nasalifia said. Okay, she said to Beyonce, I think I'm gonna leave it now because I might, depending on how bad the situation is, I might need. Is it worth the battle? When should I fight and when should I fawn? And sometimes I'm gonna be fawning. I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna just let them. I'm gonna let these guys be.
I
because it's not worth
I
it.
just hate that, man. I hate the idea that you have to whatever fawn or you have to let it go. Like, just call it out then and there. Like, I just hate the idea that like we have to pick and choose. You have to pick and choose as a person because you don't want to look like the aggressive type. Just call things out, bro.
No, but like sometimes it's just
that person got an
inappropriate.
issue. That person.
Sometimes it's just inappropriate to call it out.
And sometimes you're not able to. So like because of where you sit in terms of the work or in your family, you know that nothing's going to come out of it. That's the way. The reason people choose to do these things is not because they want to, and not because that's the ideal response. It's because that is the lesser of the evils. The lesser of the evils is in order for me to get a promotion, in order for me to get this job, I need to change my name from Tigist to TJ.
TJ.
Wow. It's probably the most offensive thing I've heard.
I was gonna say, mate, your name's Tiggy. Tiggy, you're it.
That's bad.
Wow.
But I know you come there when you're a kid. We're just unveiling trauma, and guess what? reverse therapy. I qualified. I did psychology for 3 years. Let's turn the episode around.
Please turn it to me. Give
I'm
me
joking,
all
I'm joking.
your difficult questions or your...
We're an hour and a half in, and I was going to say let's wrap this up because
let's
another 5 minutes of getting therapy, and I'm going to go wild, and I'm just going to start crying. But
that's
guys,
what we want. That's how we get you back.
Make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button firstly,
Yeah.
before we even give the shout out to Pola Practice.
Share,
share,
comment some of your traumatic experiences.
Look, if you did get bashed by your dad when you were a kid, put it down in the comments. If you got abused, put it down in the comments. If you got what other traumas are there?
In any other form, hop on your burner.
If you voted no, put it in the comments. If you voted no, put it in the comments.
Hop on your burner account and then tell us one of your wild stories.
And tell us if you voted no, because we need to get more no votes out there.
Do we? Do we?
But, hey, shout out to Indigenous people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Tigist,
Thank you for having me.
I know this was a bit of a chaotic episode. It was a bit all over the place.
Just a little.
We absolutely appreciate you for jumping on, inviting us to Pola Practice. We had a laugh. Wiebo didn't say anything because the guy's more traumatized than a kid that went to a Catholic school as a kid.
Yes. Let's get these boys in therapy.
Yeah.
Let's get these boys to unpack their problems.
And I just realized what I said.
Nah.
It's messed up.
But thank you for keeping it real as well.
No,
It's
no
very
problem.
rare. Hey, it's very rare that you get a guest that keeps it a buck.
Nah, 100%.
Very rare.
Because I want to continue thanking you for jumping on. I want to thank you for
How
My
does it
East
turn from a
African
moment of
side
honor?
doesn't know how to say
It
thank
went
you.
from a moment of honor to just straight disrespect.
That's how
Because that's how we communicate. That's how we...
You
In
have to
Eritrea and
realize-
Ethiopia, we have a relationship.
you have to realize
Communicating through trauma responses. you guys.
that's how we do.
Thank you.
Let's
You
peel
have
it back
to. You have
and
to throw the
communicate.
disses. You have to
Yeah.
throw the thanks. It has to be all.
Our
in
love
one.
language is disrespect.
Love hate. Love hate. It's love
Roast.
hate.
Yeah,
It's love hate.
roast.
So I said thank you, and then I said, yeah, you shouldn't be speaking.
Then I said, don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah. But I want to say thanks for jumping on. I'm going to say something bad.
Go, please say the bad thing.
No. But anyways, you did make us look like the most urban podcast when I was on the phone to you. All I just said was, hey, we're going to speak a bit more unfiltered, just so it can be more raw. And
Who did you compare yourself to? Just, tell everyone.
No, let's not.
Yeah, he's like,
say it.
I'm like, can you compare yourself? I was trying to be nice. I was like, all right, I won't say. I'll
right.
keep your
Say it,
secrets.
Make sure you guys do hit the subscribe button, share, check out Pola Practices if you do need therapy and you need a black woman or women of color to come speak to you. Check them out.
Polapractice.com.au.
.com.au because obviously we're in Australia, so if you're in America, we got some viewers from Sweden, and
Canada.
Yeah, done Buster,
Yo,
youth, man.
broski, yo, bro.
And we got some from Germany. Actually, I'm not gonna do that.
I hope you don't do what you were thinking.
I know what I was about to do, but make sure you guys do hit the subscribe button. Check out Pola Practices. Besides that, enjoy your day, enjoy your night from wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Stay humble. Stay.
Hotter than a sauna. Wildin', I'm the youngest and wildest with the biggest profit and the coldest. Watch this, wanna see your body, won't you sit it?